Catnip Manor here with us. Thank you for joining us. She is going to teach us all things tarot tonight. So any questions that you have, definitely feel free to shoot them over Facebook Live, Instagram, message us. We have our crew behind the scenes that are going to be letting us know any questions that you have. So thank you for coming.
Well, it's a privilege. I've known you a long time, Lindsay.
Long time.
And done other events here, which have been a privilege, met people through this. So I guess where I can start, I don't know about all things tarot, but I've been doing this a long time. Started out really, I guess my personal history would be, I grew up with a grandmother who was a medium back in the 1890s, whatever, did seances, things like that. So I grew up around that kind of consciousness in a spiritual type family that was untraditional before it was really common. So I consider that kind of a blessing. I didn't realize how much until I got, a long way in life. And somewhere around in my 20s, I started exploring the tarot. And that is actually the old version of how people said it. It's the French word tarot. And as far as the history of it, no one really knows the whole history. You can look in books, they'll talk about gypsies, all kinds of things. The truth is, people have always wanted to know what's going to happen, what's going on in my life. And I actually had a kind of an interesting experience in the last few months, because I always made a joke about it, that I think the cavemen, those drawings on the caves, might have been tarot cards.
Sure.
And they did put symbols on stones, which would be like runes. Well, then in the Denver Post a couple of months ago was a whole article about Neanderthals and their artwork.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm like, well, of course, there it is. So actually, the thing I love about the tarot, I call it the book of everything. It is based on all kinds of symbology that ends up guiding you in a spiritual manner. There's astrology, numbers, colors. The pictures are what make these cards so powerful, because a picture does speak 1,000 words. That's a true saying. So when I actually do teach this, I've been doing it for a while, and I created my own book because the ones that are out there, they're all pretty much the same thing, and actually most of them were written by people in my generation, because there weren't very many books out there prior to that. I also use an interesting deck. Now, when I first started to work with tarot, there was nothing out there but maybe a couple of decks. And the one you'll see in all the books out there, the traditional deck that everybody kind of knows about, is called the Rider-Waite. Well, there are 78 cards in every tarot deck, but it's how the artist depicts them that speaks to you so strongly. And I've discovered this deck that I use was by a woman, her name was Eileen Connolly. She actually passed away a couple of years ago, and I realized when I saw on Facebook how popular she was. But once I saw her deck, I've never used anything else. And there's a lot of decks out there now. It's getting to be trendy. Some of them are really cool. All 78 are going to have the exact same book meaning, or the ABCs. But the interesting thing is, a poker deck is a disguised version. I call it the gypsy version. And a lot of people think that tarot is fortune telling. Well, I suppose you could call it that if you use it that way, but I don't call it that. And the poker deck that is often used in that method, the 4 suits are the 4 elements. They're called something different, but they represent the 4 elements. Air, how we think; water, how we feel and create; fire is how we act; earth, we manifest. And then every suit has 10 cards in it. Well, life comes in cycles of 10, 1 to 10. And the numbers are practical. 1 means beginnings, 2 is like balance and partnership, 3 is communicate, 4 is stability, 5 is change, chaos, 6 brings harmony, 7, anytime you see a 7, it has to do with the spiritual path. And that doesn't mean run to church, it means my path. Why am I here? What is my soul's purpose? 8 is the number of success. It also is the infinity symbol. 9 means you've completed a cycle, and 10 becomes 1. So you see how that fits into each suit. So if you know what the suit is ruled by and you know the number, you're halfway there.
Right?
Just for instance, okay, I just randomly pulled up an 8 of Cups. 8 being the number of success. And I love the picture on this deck because this is a person with their grail, their quest in life. And the cups represent that which comes from your heart, from your soul. What do you want to mainly accomplish in life? And this picture says it all. It's like, okay, you know, I am looking to what I want to achieve, what I want to master. So the number and the picture and the element all make sense there.
Is that how you kind of like make sense of the card?
Yes.
For a particular person, and then does it make a difference if it's like up or down, or
that's a good question. I have actually run into people, believe it or not, some professionals that say they don't read reversals. It's like, oh, that's interesting, life is always upright. No, reversals, and that's another thing, reversals are not necessarily negative. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of cards in here that the negative is upright. And so when you want to see it reverse, it's going, okay, we are aware of this, we're working through it. There's, you know, it's not quite as dramatic and it has a specific meaning. Like all of the 5 cards in the deck represent something that is challenging. And when they come upright, you're in the middle of something. And if they're reversed, you're like, okay, yes. I'm working on this, you know,
I have a handle, I know what's happening.
Right, and I'm trying to make a change. So the story, I call it a story. And every, you know, I read for hundreds of people. I've been doing this over 40 years. Actually, it was Colorado I have to thank for my career path. Ended up here inadvertently, yeah. But through a series of what I always say were the most challenging things that have happened in my life, always seem to lead to something amazing. And this is what I teach people, that if you look at life that way, the most challenging, most difficult things are happening for a reason. Mm-hmm. The lessons you need the most are the ones that you're experiencing. And that was my grandma. She had a lot of good sayings. Another thing that Grandma always said that goes really well with tarot is if you're asking the question, you already have a sense of what the answer is. Yes. But this helps to clarify it, to lay it out in front of you and show you the actual pictures so you can look at it and go, oh yeah. And why is it different for every person? Because it tells their story. And that's why I encourage people to, if you're going to learn the tarot, learn to use it by your intuition and what you're seeing and the basics. Learn the ABCs and then sit on the book. Mm-hmm. So in a poker deck, you just have the 4 suits. You have your kings and queens, your court people. Well, in the tarot, those are people usually, mm-hmm. Sometimes an entity, sometimes yourself. There are 22 spiritual cards called the Major Arcana. And that's actually a Latin term for the archives. And so it's the archives of the sacred. Those 22 cards are all ruled by astrology. And so the meaning of the picture and when it appears, it's usually more about you. The 4 suits are about what's going on in your life and around you. And I was taught, my grandmother actually did impart some wisdom to me that I learned to do readings a little bit differently than maybe what some people do. First of all, every book shows you a structured spread. Well, that's a good way to learn the kind of questions you're going to ask or what comes up, but you don't need that. Mm-hmm. You have a question. The cards are going to come straight from your own higher self. So my job, I'm just the messenger. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like I have this great, you know, I'm sitting here telling you all these things. No, I am listening to your higher self, and I am delivering the messages. Because a lot of times what comes up in a reading, I wouldn't have said that, but Spirit did.
Well, and I think what's so interesting about tarot is that, like you always say, it's just a message, it's a path, it's mm-hmm. a forewarning of maybe something that you can change. So it's not like I think people get nervous or scared, like this is a fortune telling and I'm going to know when I die, who's going to be in my life, what's going to happen, which might come out in it, but it's also maybe a direction that you can change.
Well, I like the way you asked that because that basically is what this is. It's a tool to help you sort out your issues, bad, good, or indifferent. You know, nothing in life is all bad or good. And when people think they're going to hear something bad, it's like, well, you know, that's how life is. But that isn't what this does. If there is something that is going on in your life that is negative, the cards will help you sort it out and figure out maybe a better way to handle it. Or if there's nothing to do about it, you release the outcome and it takes care of it. But it gives you direction and guidance, and it is a self-help tool. And so when I do my readings, I do a lot of long distance also. I have clients that live all over the country, but my favorite way is to have you sitting right there with me, because you're touching the cards, you're looking at them, and you might see something that I wouldn't. And so that's what makes it so powerful. And anything that needs to be looked at will come up. So when things, I like to always start by, sometimes people come with a specific question, but it's always kind of interesting to just let them draw some cards and see that they are like, is this what you wanted to talk about today? And a lot of times—
That's my favorite way to go about it.
Sometimes people go, oh, I wasn't going to talk about that. Well, guess what? Your higher self pulled those cards on you, so apparently that's what you need to see. And we never know exactly what all's going to come up, but it's always exactly what you needed to see. And I have been doing this so long and have a nice client base. People come back for a reason. If something helped them, then they know that that's a way to sort out their issues in the future. And it isn't like they live and breathe their life, you know. I don't do that. I know some people that pull a card every day, you know. I don't do that.
It's just kind of when you're feeling a challenge or a question.
Also, I've learned emotional things for myself, I can get in the way.
Right?
So you call another reader. But yeah, I fell into, here in Denver, through an experience that I got offered an opportunity to do readings at a small metaphysical store. And I was there for over 13 years and built up a pretty good client. And then about 5 years ago, an opportunity was just handed to me, a wellness center that has a nice little office suite in a professional building. We're looking for people to join their suite. It's called Balance Holistic Wellness Center. And why would I not do that, you know? It was one thing to work in a store. It was really positive. You met people. That's how I got going on it. But now to have my own business where I can have classes, I can have people come in anytime. It's a comfortable environment, which makes it a little bit different, because a lot of times this is like self-therapy. I mean, people's stuff comes up in readings that, you know, it's therapy.
Yes.
You know, I keep a box of Kleenex there, you know. And what's interesting is because a part of it is, you know, I am a little older now. Definitely I'm a different person than I was when I was 20-something starting out with this, because I'm in my 70s now. I'm an elder. The good thing about getting older is you find out you don't know everything.
It's true.
But also, I have developed over the years, you just do this all the time, you become stronger and stronger at it. I was telling Lindsay today, it's gotten where sometimes I don't even have to like look at the card. I just like look at the deck and I'm like, oh, I just got a message. And just randomly pull a card and it'll have the message. So, and these are interesting times. So through doing this professionally, I ended up with some opportunities that don't exist in a lot of other cities. We are very blessed to live in Denver, Colorado. The first time I got here, and I grew up in Chicago, a fun town and everything, but nothing like this would have ever happened there for me. And it's like my soul found its home. And people come here looking for spiritual direction without even knowing it. And this is a vortex of light workers, so this world is pretty crazy right now. We are blessed to have a very huge circle of metaphysical community, metaphysical, for lack of a better word, churches, gathering places, spiritual centers. You just don't find that everywhere, and I've lived a lot of places. So to be able to work these fairs that are going on all over, like every March and every September, the metaphysical fair at the Merchandise Mart, thousands of people come. I've been doing it for almost 20 years, so I have my little booth. You know, it's the most amazing experience because it's about 200 readers All of us are over 50 usually. And these are legitimate people, and you get this all the time. Someone sits down, they pick a reading, and they have deals because it's $20, $20, in 20 minutes. So it's a nice little, it's like offering your clients a coupon.
Yeah.
And people sit down, they go, oh, that other reader told me the same thing. Well, of course they did, because they're reading from spirit.
Right.
And they're legitimate. And then there's beautiful vendors there selling, sacred stones and jewelry and clothing and books and all that. So anybody is interested in this type of thing and has not been to one of those fairs, there is one coming up again in September.
I was going to say it's in September.
Right.
So you're here locally in Denver with an office space with a lot of other metaphysical
people.
Providers.
Right, providers.
And you're downtown 13?
I'm on
Why
Fillmore
don't I ever
Street.
remember your address? I don't know why.
I'm 1600. I'm right between City Park and Colfax, so it's like East High School is right on the other side of us. We have a big parking lot. It's an amazing building.
Yes, you get street parking, which is huge.
Yes.
But you also mentioned phone readings too. So this is something that people can call in and schedule an appointment to do over the phone as well.
And it is just as accurate, apparently, because the way I describe it when I do a phone reading is my hand becomes your hand. And what I do for people when I do a reading over the phone, I used to email stuff, but I found everybody uses the cell phones now.
Yes.
So I will take a photograph of the important cards that came up during their reading and send it to them so they can see them physically the way that a client would if they were sitting in front of me at my table in my office or at a fair. And apparently it's helpful because I have clients all over the country, a lot of them I have never met. And we feel like, I have one gentleman in San Francisco right now, he just started work, he's got a job all over the world, and this came through readings that we did over the last few years. He found his dream job.
I love it.
And I should probably post some of these things that people write to me about how I was helped. I do have
absolutely.
I have a website, and I know it's kind of funny. People go, Catnip Manor, what the heck is that? Well, besides what I do, I've always been an advocate for animal rescue, and for some reason cats have always been, I mean, I love everything with fur and 4 feet, but cats are drawn to me. And I know it's from many lifetimes. Yes, I believe in past lives. And past lives will show up in the tarot. So when I was starting my business and doing a website, the name Catnip Manor actually came from a goal that I have that's separate from this, but kind of combines it. I am a collector, and I live in a museum.
Yes. I still need to pay you a visit and see this.
If I didn't live in a townhome, it would be already open. I've trademarked it. I've, registered it. So my hopes is that someday, somehow, I will manifest a place that will be a museum of cat collectibles, where I could also do the readings, also have free vet care and adoption things going on. But that's what I also do. So Catnip Manor was something my grandmother had embroidered on a tea towel with a little cottage that looks exactly like the house that I live in. So Catnip Manor is what I am.
Yeah.
Kind of silly in a way, but that's who I am. And so that's one of the things. But yeah, eventually I would hope to have a building like that. There are cat collectible museums all over the world. Not here.
Yeah, we need one.
Yeah, my house is ceiling to floor, wall to wall, and cat collectibles, they're all done like that. But cats are also very sacred, they're very intelligent. All animals are, and that's why I support animals. So you're going to hear that out of me. And I end up doing readings for animals, so as long as that came up.
I was going to say, so there's also a deck. So this is a deck you work with, but you also have a dog and a cat deck as well.
I have believe it or not, there are quite a few cat decks out there. And up until a few years ago, there were no dog cards out there. And then I'm looking around, I know there's another deck has come out. And apparently it's someone in Denver that created it. But this one I discovered a few years ago. And it's kind of interesting because in the regular tarot, it's the minor and the major arcana. Here they call it the minor and major barcana.
Love it.
And it has the same 4 suits and everything, but they're done a little differently, and they're not as big. There are not 78 cards in here because dogs are simpler.
What about cats? Is there 78 cards in the cat?
78 cards.
Cats are complicated. I have one.
And
I've done a reading on him too.
And I have probably about 10 different cat decks. There's actually one out there called the Tarot of the Cat People, and that actually goes into another subject of where cats really came from at one point, but we could do that at another time. But yeah, so animal readings are very accurate because when people started asking me to do that, I thought, you're going to pay me to talk to your dog? Don't you talk to him?
Right.
And so basically that's what I kind of impart to people is, communicate with your animals. They communicate. Yeah. We're the ones that are kind of stupid about it, Yeah. And if you get the hang of it, and it was a fundraiser for a dog rescue group some years ago, and it was at a restaurant, and everybody brought their dogs, and these dogs couldn't stop being interested in they would literally stick their nose on the table and pick their own cards.
Like, look.
Yes.
This is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah. And people were just amazed by it, and we ended up raising a lot of money for it was for Max Fund actually. And
so when you're doing an animal tarot reading, do you obviously don't bring the animal into your office space. You can just kind of pick up energies from the owner?
Usually I'll ask for a photograph.
Okay.
Yeah, because not everywhere you can bring pets, and
Sure.
then not only that, most cats wouldn't we're going to get a tarot reading. No,
Yeah.
Stuck him
That
in.
cat's going to come real irritated
But
to start off.
when I do them at home, for my phone readings at home,
Yeah.
my cats love the tarot. They'll actually literally, and I've done some private readings at home for friends, the cats want to be involved. And my one cat in particular, Sophia, she will stick her paw right on a card.
Oh, yeah.
And she's unbelievable, yeah. And of course, Sophia that's an interesting, she adopted me actually about 8 years ago after I had lost another soulmate cat, and she just came into my life. I wasn't cat shopping, and her name in the shelter was Annie, and I saw her at PetSmart, and I just left. And I went to a women's group where we were studying archetypes, and this lady that was partnered with me kept saying, Sophia is really strong around you. Well, Sophia is also the last card of the tarot deck. It's called the World deck, but Sophia actually means the divine wisdom. And so a week later, I was right up there, and of course I ended up adopting this kitty, and when I brought her home, she just was right at home. And I says, well, Annie, how do you like it here? And she didn't look at me, and I go, oh, you're Sophia. Of course she is.
Of course.
So that's some of the things that come out of this kind of thing. I have people that have come to me for their animal readings, and it's powerful how it helps.
It's amazing.
And especially, I had a really interesting experience about a month ago. This lady found me on my website, contacted me, and it was kind of late on a Sunday night, and her cat had gotten lost, and her cat's name was Sophia. And I'm like, I had never met this lady, didn't know who she was, and I'm like, this is too strange.
Right.
So I pulled out the cards, and I got a very accurate reading that the cat, they had recently moved. This was a cat she had adopted, and that the original owners had died, and she had not told me any of this. I picked this all up in the cards. And I said, so this cat is suffering grief and doesn't know what happened to it and why it's living somewhere that it doesn't know where it's at. And I said, it got out. I think that the kitty is headed back to where she knows is familiar. So I said, I feel like she's been frightened. She was chased by a dog. I could see all these things in the cards. And I said, but I believe that you should, of course, go out, check with the shelters, put up some signs, but go check out where she might have gone. Sure enough, I get a message the next morning that the lady went back to the other house and Sophia was sitting on the porch.
They have a little spirit.
But it was this reading, and somebody that I had never met or ever talked to before found me, and she actually said she had gone looking for someone and was drawn to the name Catnip Manor.
I love it.
So, yeah, I've had many experiences. The other thing that happens in readings, you can talk to people from the other side. And this is something that my grandmother did say that I had forgotten about until it started happening in my life. She says when she did medium work, she would talk to the people that were trying to reach somebody. And the first question you ask someone that has lost somebody, well, I've had some kind of interesting messages, like maybe you heard a song on the radio, or you smelled their perfume, or something like that. And most people go, well, I'm not sure, or maybe yeah, but they didn't really get it. And I'll say, so then you had a dream. Oh, yes. Every single person that I have ever encountered, and it sounds like I'm using an allness statement, but they will always say they got a dream. And that's what happens, because if they can't reach you any other way, they will show up in your dream very vividly, because you are in your subconscious and you can't go, no. And I said, then if you still don't believe them, they go, I'm going to send you to a tarot reader where I can pick up a card and show you a picture, and then you'll know that I am talking to you.
Yes.
And so this happens, and it's amazing how absolutely accurate it is on connecting with people on the other side. And most people that come for a reading aren't really coming for that reason. It shows up inadvertently.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just one of those things that's powerful and helps people.
I love it.
Because it
is such a tool. It does help you kind of see clearly. It kind of helps you like work out issues. I always love spending time with you doing a reading.
Well, and some of the most interesting questions usually are the common ones. Is this the right relationship? Is this the right job? How's my health? How's my family? Lately, it's been a lot different. It's been more about, am I serving my purpose? Am I doing what I should be doing? Because the world is so crazy now. What can I do to make a difference? And people are actually asking this, am I on my path?
It's amazing.
And actually, I found this in one of Eileen Connolly's books. Someone had asked me what the real definition of destiny was, or fate, and I just happened to have found it in her book. Destiny is the root word of destination. How you get there is your road trip.
I love that. That's so incredible. I was like, this is a good note to end on, but I want you. So one question that we've gotten a lot of is, what is a tarot reading? How does it go? So I volunteered to do a few cards and kind of a start of a reading. But I want you to tell everyone how they can get a hold of you. So catnipmanor.com.
That's my website. I'm going to have to, I think I'm going to put my cell phone on there. I've got my regular number on there I've had for 30 some years, so I just leave it. Actually, it's my landline, and I joke about it because everyone has the cell phones now, but if the EMG happens and floods, I still have my regular phone.
Exactly. You can always reach out to Glamour Bar Denver, and we can get you in touch with Phoebe as well. She's just around the way for us. So anything that you need to get in contact with her, but catnipmanor.com, or reach out to Glamour Bar. We can get you contact information, and you can schedule your own reading. So usually it's like a half an hour to an hour.
Well,
is kind of the two.
Yeah, and I always offer both, because an hour, if you've really been through an intense reading, an hour is really like does it. But then I call like a half hour as either an introduction to people that aren't real into it, don't know a lot about it, or a tune-up. You know, like they've done their big reading, now they need a tune-up. So I do half hours for $40, and an hour is $75. And I've been called a cheap date because I know there's people charging a lot more. But you know what? I do what I do out of my heart. I serve the divine. I serve the God and Goddess. And that is my purpose in life, is if I make a difference in someone's life, prosperity and abundance comes to you. You know, I have everything I need. If I need it, it comes to me, and I don't need to do that. People can't always afford something, and they need help. You know, that's what I can do. And so you can reach me that way. I do not have facility online for booking your own self. I do everything one-to-one. I'm old-fashioned.
And then you do a lot of fairs as well. So look for the different metaphysical fairs around Denver.
Yeah, there's a lot of little metaphysical churches. I'm going to be doing one in the end of August at a Unity Church in Arvada that I do periodically, about 4 times a year. In September, the end of September, there's going to be one at a spiritual center called the Althea Center. It's right downtown, completely metaphysical type place, so I'm going to be doing one there. And then there will be the Athena Fest in November. It always falls on the weekend of Veterans Day, and that's a powerful one. So yeah, those are ones where you can come.
Seek her out. You'll love it. So I know we've had a ton of questions of what does reading look like? How do you get started? So as Phoebe will tell you, usually she suggests that you're kind of private or with a best friend, that you're not really doing it and with a whole group around you and public setting, but
yeah, and that's something, I mean, you would not, some of the things that have come up in my readings over the years are things that people, and what I do when I come up with stuff like that, I will refer them. You need to see a therapist. You need to see a doctor. You need to see, these things. And I've had a lot of experiences with things that people have never told anybody. And some of it comes from my age. I've been around a lot of things, been exposed to a lot of different things, but that I've learned to see things differently as I get older that I might not have seen 30 years ago. But when you see something in someone's reading and you can refer them on to somewhere that they need to be, whether it might be a health issue, it might be a mental issue, but it'll come out in here.
Yes.
And so I
I'm
tell
gonna put it out
people,
there.
your underwear drawer is going to be open.
Put my underwear drawer out there for you.
So I want you to just do some shuffling so
Okay.
that your energy is in there. And of course, most tarot cards are a little bit bigger, In fact, my grandmother's deck, which I've never used it came from Italy, and it is like really big and has gold leaf, and it's like,
I'm sure it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. The difference is that it doesn't have pictures on the suit cards, and so you have to really know them. All right, so usually what I like to do is just spread them all out, and we've got a little tiny table here because we're doing a little tiny reading. And
I'm overdue, so one fun thing that she does is a yearly birthday reading, so
Oh,
I'm
yes.
overdue for this. I've got to schedule it.
And actually, I'm glad you brought that up because this is an idea I came up with some years ago, and people love it. I had designed a form with 12 boxes in it for each month, and we just have you draw 12 cards. I make the notes for you. I write them in, 1 card for each month ahead, and then we put them back and we do a reading. Well, a lot of times what happens, the cards that have come up in the 12-month draw show up in the actual reading. By the time we're done, everything's solved. The whole year's taken care of. And
done.
it doesn't mean that card fell in March, so that's absolutely going to happen in March. It's just an indicator that this is in the view. So yeah, and then people save them and bring them back, and it's amazing how they work out.
Yes,
And
it's
usually
very fun.
Usually a tune-up comes in the middle of the year.
Yes.
All right, so you have a specific question in your mind?
I don't. I always like to just go rogue.
Okay, so when I start with someone for just a quick little thing like that, we usually do 3 cards. 3 is a number of communicating. It also is traditionally past, present, future, whatever. It just kind of brings it all together and gives you the message of, oh, this is what you're dealing with right now that's important to you. So
Okay.
let me move my little crystal here. Okay, so we're going to move these back. And the way that I describe this, a reading is your story, and each card is a page in your book. So we turn them over. Oh, and sometimes people will flip the cards. Not my job. They're never wrong. Okay, so you've got you might have thought about this before.
Maybe I shouldn't do it fully on air. Just joking.
Well, basically we have reversed cards here, and the one that you would like to see reversed is in the upright, because
yeah, my bad one.
Well, actually it's called the Universal House Cleaner.
Yeah.
And it looks pretty darn scary, and actually this is an interesting card because it has been decks. We don't know the whole history of when first decks, but they've been around hundreds of years, maybe thousands, whatever. But every deck out there, depending on what the artwork is, this one always looks like this. Mm-hmm. And what it means, the Universal House Cleaner, it means that there's a lot of stuff going on that needs to be cleaned out, and it's probably been resisted, or you wouldn't get the tower. This is one of those, like, I told you once, I told you twice, you know?
Yeah, we're gonna set the place on fire.
Since this came up, I'm gonna like take a moment to go into this,
yeah.
just off of your reading, because what we see here is changes around something going on in your business, honey, that the good news is the 5 is reversed. In the upright, this is worried over something that happened, that now you're going, you know something? Oh, and I know what this is about. Some things that needed to change in your business. Mm-hmm. People that maybe needed to leave for other reasons, whatever. And maybe at some point it was a challenge, it was, you know, caused some problems. But you know what? Oh, look at that. You got the 2 cups on the mantle, everything is fine. So, you know, when we go back, what did I do with my... It fell on the floor.
That tower, like, had to, like, also just jump.
So really, that's really your message. This is kind of confirming that you did some house cleaning, and we've done some clearing here. That's another thing I do, is clear energy. I've gone into businesses, people's homes. It's something everyone should think about, actually, mm-hmm. because we all have things go on in our house that, you know, you should do some clearing. And we've done it here. And I think it's funny that here I'm the person sitting here that helped you clear.
And that's what we pulled, guys.
So I want you to draw 2 cards.
Okay.
And we're going to see if that has been fairly resolved. And actually, sometimes one will like make it stone, but we're going to... Oh, see, this one is another one that you don't want to see upright. So whatever it was that you were going through is all something. This did involve changes in the actual, probably people that worked here or whatever, and that isn't necessarily a negative thing, but it happens in businesses, and it's happening a lot everywhere right now, big change. So the positive card is, no, it's as good. There, and there's your tower.
This is my money stick.
Yes. And do you see the tower?
Yes.
See, when something reaffirms the other card, there's the tower. Mm-hmm. So symbolically, we're reading the story that, yes, the tower was cleaning out whatever needed to go. So, and just for the heck of it, I want to see what
Let's end on the other card.
So we come up with the Emperor, which represents business, being, and has the world in his hands, and the spiritual Ankh. So this is doing business. So this is, there you are, darling.
Here I am, guys.
So I think that, and let's see
I don't think you could end any better way than...
I just want to tell you how interesting and
I was
how
like,
powerful.
I love the story that it ends up telling, like, as you do tarot, it ends up telling a story as you, like, pull the cards and they're all laying out.
And it came out beautifully. But I just wanted to go back to this quickly because I have a powerful story about this card. I was working on the Saturday of the week of 9/11, and I hadn't been doing it a long time at the store, maybe a couple of years I'd been there, and I was only a part-time reader at the time. So the first person that came in, I did 5 readings that day. The first person that sat down had this awesome reading. Everything was about love, shmuv, and whatever, and all of a sudden they drew this card. And I looked at it, and it had nothing to do with the reading at all. And I'm like, okay, well, I wasn't sure what to do, so I didn't do anything. I just said, well, we'll kind of think about that. Well, then the second person came in, another powerful, positive reading, and then this card. And by the 5th person, it went, oh, hello, 9/11.
Ugh.
And you know, it was weird because every person was affected by that.
Absolutely.
And every year since then, this doggone card will show up. So how did they know when they drew this? I mean, look at it. It looks like a photograph.
Yeah.
And I don't care what deck you buy, they all look like this.
Yeah.
Did somebody know something?
It's crazy.
Yeah. So I
So
know
this
that
is-
was kind of a weird thing to bring up, but it was so powerful that, you know, I wanted to tell the story.
Yeah,
just to show
absolutely.
you how things can happen.
Yeah.
So what about you, honey?
So I think we have it all out there.
I think you just
It's kind of a good start for anybody that's like
yeah.
worried about pulling tarot.
And actually, that's a good thing that those cards came up that
I
look
know.
kind of scary because I could prove to you that they aren't.
They're not necessarily scary.
Right, they were a message that told the story of what I know you've been through in the past year. And now this is your new year because that's what birthday is. New Year's Day is not January 1st for you or me or a lot of us. It's your New Year's Day. And so this really says it, that everything here was about your past year. And this is your new year. Stability, sacredness, there's the Rocky Mountains in the background. Everything is powerful here. So I think it did exactly what it was supposed to do.
I know, we had some good, we had some bad, we like
But it
worked through
told
it.
the story.
Told the story.
Yeah. So
Well, thank you so much for coming on and being a part of Beauty and Bubbles.
are you
It was
kidding?
so
This
much
is
fun.
exciting. I love this place. I've been here for events. I tell people about it and
I know. I've
And-
seen Phoebe for like,
a long time.
I don't even know if I want to say on both of our parts how many
well,
years.
it depends on which lifetime you're talking about.
I was like at least probably 13 in this,
Yes,
this
yes.
one. So
Yes.
thank you for joining us. It's always so great to see
Oh,
you.
thank you, everybody.
Yes. So if you want to get a tarot reading with Phoebe, catnipmanor.com, or you can reach out to Glamour Bar Denver and we can get you guys in contact with each other and have an amazing tarot reading.
And what
Tarot,
I'd just
tarot.
like to say to everybody is this is a time that it's so important to take care of yourself. You know, try to sort out your stuff. Be positive, be strong. This is a positive tool to help you do the best things you can do in your life and find the best direction. And we joke about it, but in the days before these things that everyone has in front of their face, intuition is another word for imagination. You just spell it differently.
I love that ending. So thank you so much again for joining us
Thank
tonight.
you for inviting me.
We're super excited next week. So Ashley and I are leaving on Saturday to join our girls from Let's Lash in Arizona in the Cosmoprof North America Beauty Expo. So we're going to go and learn all of the cool latest gadgets, gizmos, everything out there, and we're going to bring it back to you next Tuesday. So we hope that you'll join us next Tuesday.
Didn't you do that last year in Vegas?
We did. We're
See?
going back again.
And
So-
look how beautiful she is.
Too sweet.
Plus, I got to say one thing about this. How many places can you go and get pampered and have a glass of champagne?
There's nothing better.
Yes, that's why it's the Glam Bar.
Yes. Well, thank you again for joining us, and we hope that you'll join us again next Tuesday. So, see you next Tuesday.
Blessings, everybody. Who knows what'll come out of it? We don't know, but
I